humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is Reality Rants with Jason Bermas. Of course, I have weird technical issues because I forget to set up the custom RTMP over on the Rumble. But we're rumbling. Hopefully, yep, we're rumbling. We're rock finning. We're over on the YouTube. And Lori Lightfoot is dancing. She's dancing. Obviously, I had another story up. I was trying to go to the Lightfoot dance here, which is cartoonishly over the top. I mean, take a look at this thing. I mean, my broadcast lead today is a story where you got just an actor saying the obvious. Just the obvious. Just an obvious thing that everybody who is a coherently thinking, sentient being knows. They know it. It's in the mix. That's what it is. And he's being vilified for it. And it's this guy named forget what his first name is here. Let's get to him right here. Zachary Levi. He's about my age too. And you take a look at this guy. And look, I don't even want to read the headline. Because it's, Shazam star Zachary Levi, 42, is slammed online for tweets agreeing that, why do we have to even throw that in there? Well, Pfizer is a danger to the world. Just 1 month before a $100 million superhero sequel is released. Now, first of all, I actually like the Shazam movie. It was actually pretty decent. Anybody see? Not the Black Adam one that just came out, which is meh all the way around. It's kind of connected to Shazam. I'll be honest, I don't know all the lore. But this guy right here, see, he's got the grays. Notice mine's kind of shaved out, but I assure you, as you've seen, when I do have hair like that, gray everywhere, that's a much fiercer beard than I think that I can get right there. You see Patch Adams in the bottom. But he says the obvious. He says, hardcore agree. Do you agree or not that Pfizer is a real danger to the world? Now, you agree with that. You agree with something so blatantly obvious, and you're vilified in the media, while what looks like a DC supervillain who runs an actual city that has actual crime skyrocketing through the roof. I mean, you got to have fun with it, right? You got to pull it back a little bit sometimes, and you got to laugh. Because it's beyond cartoon level, right? What you're looking at right here is this is the remix of the year for me. I mean, she throws it down. She got the point. Meanwhile, Just some dude my age that happens to be in Hollywood and making movies that aren't half bad, right? Says something that's so damn obvious for a million different reasons. Oh, wait. You mean somebody with government contracts that absolves them of any wrongdoing criminally? That's a danger to the world? Really? And not only government contracts, but global contracts too? That's a danger to the world? Zachary Levi has been slammed online after he posted a critical tweet of the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer in the early hours of Sunday. Bum, bum, bum. The Shazam Fury of the Godstar 42 set off the controversy after he quote tweeted a post from an account espousing, I'm not even going to say that word, views that claim Pfizer was a real danger to the world. Ooh, he participated in some public wrongthink. Ooh, bad Levi. Levi, whose new DC Comics films is set to hit theaters on March 17th, wrote in his retweet, "Hardcore agree." So again, you're in some semblance of sanity in the world. You have your finger on the pulse of what regular society actually thinks is going on. You're critical of a multi-billion-dollar company that has lost in court numerous times for multiple egregious activities. Oh boy, they're going to throw you right under the bus, son. Although Levi was expressing a personal opinion, he is now a figure within Warner Brothers brand. Ooh, he's Warner Brothers. I mean, is Lori Lightfoot in Warner Brothers brand? Because if she's not, I mean, if Lori Lightfoot isn't the villain in the new Shazam movie, they need to get to work with the CGI and the deep faking and just, come on, look at that. Yeah. That's the person that runs a city and the media holds water for. And this guy, who's in his 40s, just barely making it in Hollywood, finally has like a brand, right? I mean, the last movie was like 2019. That's forever ago. Made a pretty decent movie with that. He's the one that's under controversy. And this latest move could mark the beginning of yet another publicity battle for the film and TV studio. Yeah, you're not worried about Ezra Levant and, you know, again, the weird transgender violent dude that's on the art scene and has some questionable relationships with underage teenagers. That one. You'll hold water for that guy. And you'll hold water for Lori Lightfoot. But this guy we're going after. A danger to the world. Hardcore agree. This is the latest embarrassing feat in a myriad of issues embattled Warner has had in trying to promote films starring controversial characters. I love how he's behind American Underdog, because that's where we're at. How is this guy the American Underdog? Seriously, is he the American Underdog? He's stating what most of us believe is the obvious. In fact, I've got a whole 13.5 Operation Warp Speed video I want to play. Probably can't play it on this end. I got a whole article up here, right here. Operation Warp Speed is using a CIA-linked contractor to keep you-know-what contract secret. This is Whitney Webb from October of 2020. I'm starting One Nation Under Blackmail. Reading a few pages here and there before I go to bed at night. Very dense, as you would imagine, and excellent so far, obviously. Whitney Webb constantly knocking it out of the park. What a great book. And we're going to read part of that article as well, but that's going to have to be on the uncensored portion of the broadcast via Red Voice Media, redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Sign up today. It's only $1 for the first week, $10 a month, or $100 for the year. And by the way, we've been reposting a lot of those second hours. In particular, over the weekend, I posted 2 of my breakdowns of the NASA document all the way up to, I think, page 71. Or no, I'm sorry. We only posted the breakdown, and then we did a watch along with Bushnell. I did another one of those we'll probably release, which is a breakdown up until 71. And then later this week, perhaps we do 71 through I think it's 111. So we'll finish that up. The document's spot on. From everywhere, from every angle. And I got a ton of different videos queued up. I got some Bill Gates stuff that I'm going to want to go over. Bill Gates again asked about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I just had dinner a couple times. Just a couple times, some dinner. Now, Whitney Webb and others have reported and pointed out that there were mainstream reports pre-2000 that Epstein had made his money with the likes of people like Gates and Trump. I mean, we can all pretend that's not real, but I live in a place that is not imagination land. I live in a place where I can critically think, and I can look at something like this. Yeah. And I can realize that we live in a cartoon reality when the guy saying the real stuff right here, okay, the real stuff is vilified in the media. DC Studios, a division of Warner Brothers, is the film and television company that oversees the production of various films based on DC comics and material, most of which kind of suck. And by the way, did I call Ezra Levant? Ezra Levant is the Rebel media guy. Ezra Levant is great. I apologize. Recently, the company faced another embarrassing debacle relating to its star Ezra Miller, who was due to appear in its $250 million superhero flick, The Flash. And I mean, they did spend a lot of money, and they scrapped that Batgirl piece of garbage. You know, and you know why they had to scrap it? Because it was probably terrible and worse than the other crap they've put out there. They've barely been able to put out anything decent. And I know they just got James Gunn, who has some questionable friends himself, by the way. James Gunn does. And has said some questionable things. Right, James Gunn? We've got cracking jokes about breaking his daughter in. You think I'm in a priest outfit, by the way. Now, you don't believe me? And having a really, really sleazy friend hooked into the CP scene. And also the Hollyweird scene, who did get picked up on charges. So, and listen, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I hope that's as far as it goes. Had some really nasty tweets, that guy. But that's the guy that actually makes decent entertainment, like the latest Suicide Squad movie for DC when they failed again and again and again and again and again. Okay? And by the way, all the things going with Miller, he pleaded guilty to an unlawful trespassing charge. Oh. I mean, that's barely anything. So, once again, the guy says the obvious. I am obviously on this dude's side. I think that he's done a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. I think it's something to be celebrated, right? And we shouldn't be gaslit into believing that's not what the vast majority of us actually feel and think. At least the thinking ones. All right, so I want to move on to, I guess, the story of the day. And by the way, we got 172 watching. Could we get 100 thumbs up? And you know what? I should caveat this a little bit because I haven't even discussed the directed evolution thing, right? First of all, we've been talking about directed evolution on this show for years. I've actually put the idea of directed evolution of this species and the rest of the species on the planet in my presentations at the Reawaken America tour. Okay? So when you have a low level, I think he was like a director, some kind of a pseudo executive. Again, I don't work for Pfizer. I don't want to work for Pfizer. Sitting there on a date, being filmed by Veritas, trying to impress somebody, etc., and talking about this, he's telling you reality. He's telling you the real deal. All right, now, is he up to the top? No, but he's obviously at a level where he gets to read the notes and what the talking points will eventually be if they ever get caught, which they did, which no one seems to be reporting on. Which no one seems, other than the Twitter sphere and, in the mainstream, only on Fox News, which isn't a good thing. I'm going to say it again, and I've said it before. And I saw the Tuckins jump on this, but it's so true. There is zero reason that we should be allowing pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television or in newspaper, anywhere. They don't need to advertise. They're supposed to be medicine. They're supposed to be something that a doctor prescribes you, okay, after you go in for an exam and you get a prognosis. This for-profit medicine shit has to go. You want to know why everybody's so unhappy? All right? I mean, so zombified. Look no further. You had a certain level of programming in the generation prior to mine. All right? You had a certain level. I mean, always. These tools are always going to be utilized by those in power. And what do I mean by tools? Psychological warfare tools, which repackaged, rebranded, are public relations. Psychological warfare and public relations. And they've been constantly used and utilized. And somewhere in there, in that 80s moment, into the 90s, all of a sudden it was just normalized that we could advertise these type of drugs on television. As far as television for me, the most we saw was don't do drugs. I learned it by watching you. Which in itself has its problems, right? For the most part, creating a narc society on your parents, one. Two, demonizing marijuana as, one of these other types of substances and calling it a gateway drug. Never been a gateway drug for myself. I was never like, you know what? I like this. And it's not like I haven't tried anything else. But I'm going to jump into that, and I'm going to love that. It's just not the way it works. Okay? So, in that idea of rebranding and psychological warfare and moving on from, the big pharma story. And again, until we get these things off television, I mean, we're going to have stories like that where a common sense thing is said by somebody and they're vilified everywhere. And he'll probably lose his job. That movie might get pulled. And again, Shazam was decent. And everything DC's done as far as solo movies outside the Batman series, fun movie. Had a good fun ending with Henry Cavill as Superman. Don't worry, it's kind of a spoiler, but it's like a throwaway scene at the end. Fun movie. Let's take the fun out of everything. And speaking of taking the fun out of everything, I'm watching MSNBC last night because I watch them all, guys. I don't want anybody just to think it's just me and Fox News. No. CNN International, MSNBC, Bloomberg, CNBC, Vice. I watch them all. So the Mehdi Hasan show comes on. Mehdi Hasan. Ooh. He's... He's so authoritative. Oh. And they're talking about this police brutality story that's everywhere in the media that in some cases, you know, I'd say conservative media blew up and blew the fact that there were going to be cities that burned down, etc. There was some small rioting in New York City. Sucks. Really shitty look. Don't get me wrong, but thankfully it wasn't. It wasn't what we saw in some of the places during the Summer of Love, you know, in Seattle and otherwise. Not even close. And good, because the idea that race had anything to do with this, other than this, what I will say, the cops themselves thinking that they would be able to absolve themselves even if they were black. You know, people can come down on me all they want for that, but quite frankly, you think about this unit that, number one, is a plainclothes undercover unit. Anytime I see something like this, I always think back to like The Shield, because we associate things with Hollywood and television shows. But if you've never seen The Shield is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, cop shows of all time. Because it shows you the evolution of what is otherwise, you know, basically mostly straight-laced cops that have known each other, that form this unit, and this unit is now not under the scrutiny or oversight of the police department as much as it used to be, and it just spirals out of control. Why? Because power, as you get it, right, it tends to corrupt people more and more and more. And that video is tough to watch, man, and I don't like it. I think I talked about it last week. Just like I don't like watching that Ashley Babbitt video, I don't like watching that. I don't like watching somebody cry for their mother, period, at all. Not even a little bit. So, and by the way, I think that, you know, the aftermath and kind of the arrogance of the way that the cops are kind of talking and dismissive, and how they're really not worried about the outcome, and the guy's sitting there bleeding and just like, it's over. Dark stuff, 100%. But to say that has to do with systemic racism makes me want to vomit. And Mehdi Hassan did like a whole 15-minute segment open with this. And he quoted Van Jones, who, you know, again, CNN put it out there. It's the headline, the cutout that you're seeing on your social media about like, hey, whoa, this thing could have still been racist. Even though you had a really articulate female, I think she was a black police officer, talking about how this had nothing to do with race. And by the way, these guys were immediately reprimanded and they're being charged, which they should be. That is the kind of accountability that we need. I mean, I want to see, again, from the beginning, because they're acting like this guy was either driving recklessly or something like that. Before I break out all my jump to conclusions, Matt, but everything I saw, the right moves have now been made. And it didn't have anything to do with race, and especially what Mehdi Hassan quoted. Okay, Mehdi Hassan. So they play, he read NWA lyric by Ice Cube from F the Police. Classic. Big NWA fan right here. In fact, back in the day, in my day of the CD, when I used to go over across the street and a lot of the head shops, you know, the water pipe stores, smoke shops, they'd have used video games and they'd have used CDs. And I had such a collection of used CDs. And while I was in college and just kind of discovering decent rap after discovering Wu-Tang Clan, right? Because that's really where I fell in love with a little bit of hippity-hoppity. That album's there. And everybody knew the F the Police song anyway, and they had like a commercial hit with Express Yourself, but so many great songs on that. On that song in particular, there's a line where black police showing out for the white cop. All right, basically the Uncle Tom police officer. So that didn't happen here either. There was no white cop to show out for Medi. Like, why can't we just acknowledge that, number one, if you give somebody a gun and a badge and authority over other people, there's a chance, okay, there's a chance that that might go sour. Not everybody's in it to do the right thing. People change. People become accustomed to things. People get absorbed into situations. The more corrupt the area, the more apt that the police themselves. I mean, look at our political system. It's filled with some of the most greedy, egregious, corrupt people at the top. At the top. Look who they just put in as mayor of New York City. Eric Adams. That guy's not corrupt. That guy didn't lie to everybody's face. Come on now. Come on now. So, you know, when we're talking about something systemic, the only systemic thing I see is the ability for power to corrupt individuals and the inability to regulate those things when you have less and less oversight. So again, especially on that, it's a horrific thing that it happened. I don't think race has anything to do with it. I think people like Mehdi Hassan are, you know, disgusting for even implying it. And I hope that there is some semblance of sanity, that if you could talk to somebody on the left, especially me, because, like, look, I'm not holding water. I don't talk about back in the blue or any of that stuff. I know we need law enforcement, period. Like, I'm not under the illusion. And that's the thing. He ends it with this whole defund the police thing. Literally ends it with defunding the police because they disbanded the unit and defunded it. That's great. It's not the same thing. When people are actually talking about defunding the police, I hate to tell you, that's a fast track for robots. That's a fast track for automation. You want, believe me, no matter how corrupt it gets, you want a human being. You do. You want a full-on, real deal human being. You want something with a thing called empathy. Because robots, I mean, they can't even really be apathetic because they're just programmed. Okay, they're emotionally neutral. I don't care. It's a robot. And every time you hear about this, defund the police. First of all, they want to create chaos. They want to have somebody like a Lori Lightfoot in there. Just, yeah, oh yeah. Come on, one more time. Every time I see it. Yes. Go Lori. Go Lori. It's early. But I mean, man, I see that stuff and I'm blown away. So that brings me to the other big story of the day that I haven't really covered at any kind of length. And that is the Paul Pelosi story. Okay? So now that we have apparently video of DePape breaking in from the side, looks like with the hammer that is being wielded in the video. You know, I still have a couple of questions. But what did I take away now that I've listened to more of the audio? More of the audio has been released with the 911 call. And then watching, obviously, the video we've all seen. Okay. So let's start it with the idea that we cover the fact that DePape was probably mentally insane. Right? Even back in the day when it first came out, and I talked about the fact that I had actually met apparently his ex-girlfriend or ex-fiance, Gypsy Taub, way back in the day, and everything there mentally seemed a bit off. Okay, so at least from what I see in that video, and apparently he called up some radio show and apologized for not taking out more people or doing a better job. The guy seems completely and totally mentally insane. Let me start there. Completely and totally mentally. And from the moment that door opens, you look at his face, he looks like a crazy person. And by the way, both hands are on the one hammer. So, next thing I've been taken away from after listening to the videotape and then just seeing the altercation. You know, in the audio tape now, when he's talking about, he says he's a friend, there's more context to that. DePape is in the background telling him he's a friend, but at the same time, he says he doesn't know him. Paul Pelosi seems very confused. Now, there's only so much confusion that's going to be if you awaken in the middle of the night. Perhaps he was on pills, too. I don't know. It's pill country. But for me, what I'm taking away from most of it is that Paul Pelosi is probably degrading mentally. Like, he seems like, at least on the phone and then what's going on, he seems like he's with it enough that he knows he doesn't want to get hit in the head with a hammer. And he's got the hand on the hammer, and whatever DePape has said to him off the phone, who knows, right? But he's also in a pajama shirt, and he seems to be in, boxers. Nothing seems off there. It's probably, personally, I would never wear like long sleeve shirts to bed. I get really hot. But boxers, DePape's fully clothed. All this innuendo of them, being, secretly involved intimately seems to be totally off. Doesn't seem to be real at all. Now, if you get to the idea that Pelosi isn't really there, looks like he's on the verge of dementia, you got to wonder how he's making those stock trades. Now, I know there's been all sorts of allusions to insider trading and then giving the information to her husband and the Pelosi's, obviously, again, if you're a common sense person, that seems to be what's going on. But this would just further reiterate that if Paul Pelosi doesn't know that a man with a hammer in his home isn't his friend. And he's talking about waiting a long time because Nancy's not going to be back for 2 days. She's not going to be back for a couple days. He's really calm throughout the thing, too. There seems to be no elevation of his voice in any of the phone calls, even when they show up to the door. Very bizarre. So there is still one question I have. And this is somebody who slowed this down. And I'm going to have to take a look at the actual footage myself and go break it down. But let's make that fully clear. In some initial reports, and if you again, that could be angling. I that could just be the angle of the thing. I have no idea whether or not that's showing that there is an actual extra person there. In the initial reports, there was a third person there. Now, from what we've seen, like you can see right there, they both have the hand on the hammer. There's only one hammer. The guy looks crazed from the very beginning. There doesn't seem to be anybody that you can see in the crack of the door as it swings open. There is that little crack. But is there somebody that's right behind here? I don't know. And if so, what does that mean? Because we've seen the video of DePape smashing the side door. We've now seen at least, the entire altercation that the police see in the very beginning. And if that is a person behind them, there's no indication of it from what we've seen of the body cam footage where things get out of control quickly. And this guy tries to murder Paul Pelosi. It takes a hammer and just strikes the dude down. It's scary. It shows you that crazy exists. That guy's a crazy person. You're not going to be able to tell me anything different. From the initial reports where you saw it, you had to think that, he was some kind of crazy person. Of course, they always try spinning it QAnon nonsense. MAGA, Trumples. Who knows what that guy thinks? Who knows? He's assaulting people with hammers in front of police officers. Yeah. That's, I mean, it looks like DePape's going to prison for a very long time, period. So, again, was there a third person? There was those reports of a third person. Does the video show there was a third person? I don't know. I'd want to see more of the police footage because, obviously, after that altercation, the ambulances are coming. If there is a person right there, one of the police officers is going to encounter them. If there is another person there, you would think that they would be used to testify. So they could also, whenever you have somebody who does something like this, you pile on the evidence. That's all I'm saying. But it got, again, a lot of the people that were cracking like Lover, all that stuff, not there, not real. Doesn't seem to be real at all. And I'd love to see people own up to that. It's just like I'm seeing a ton of stuff on Damar Hamlin all over my timeline. People are tagging me in this or tagging me in that. And you notice we barely covered it. Other than the fact that it was, obviously, and someone reported it live on air. The obvious questions should be asked. But now there's a whole thing, and we're getting into the realm of, deep fakes and the 6th day. Well, Jason, what do you mean the 6th day? You remember the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, kind of tail end of his action career, right? People had stopped, bucking up to just go see Arnie take down the bad guys with some quips, one-liners, and big guns. And it was an interesting story. And basically it begins at the XFL, right? Because the XFL in the future is taken off. And I think it was like the 1 year back then that the XFL they were trying to launch it. That's how far back this is. I think Vince tried to do it again and failed. But opening scene, quarterback gets killed on the field. Breaks his neck, gets killed on the field, and taking it to the next level. They've got cloning technology, the likes of which I don't believe actually exists. Who knows? But basically this idea that you can fully gestate a human being, and not only fully gestate a human being, clone their consciousness or mind, and that's what they're trying to sell you on, and recreate that person. So, big football star, they need to make their money. It's just kind of alluded to. He dies, and then they bring the clone out. All right? I don't think we live anywhere near there. Now, where do we live? We do live in Total Recall, The Running Man, where deep fakes are a total reality, and that it is now time to really question what you see. And there's so many people out there that are just speculating that this latest video is some kind of a deep fake, and it uses Voco. And look, we've reported on those technologies, even in real time. Years and years and years ago. Even Adobe was kind of involved in that technology. It's gotten a lot better, right? I'm not going to deny it. And I think that we are in that level. Every time I watch that film, I always get a little smirkle on my face when I see Geraldo Rivera in the beginning. Old Geraldo. Always wanted to be a star, eh, Geraldo? So Geraldo Rivera in The Running Man is basically portrayed as an individual that won the game. Because, in the future, it kind of like riding right along those American Gladiators lines, only it died, right? But there was like this one group that somehow beat these guys, beat the gladiators that were killing you. And Geraldo Rivera is part of that group, and it's vacation time and all the prizes and blah, 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 blah. And really, they're not even showing stock footage. They got deepfake tech, right? And then when the Schwarzenegger character starts getting out of control and just killing everybody, they need a better narrative. So they bring back Jesse Ventura. It's kind of like this ultimate warrior hero guy, like draped in everything America. And he kills some poor sap that in real time looks like Schwarzenegger. Now, do we have that technology to do it in real time that well right now? Maybe not. Maybe not in real time. When you get to AI and you get to programming, there are certain things that can happen via software glitches or repetition that you can look for, reused frames. Certainly when you look at these things critically, maybe you can tell. Maybe you can tell. And a lot of the stuff is obviously not developed in real time. It is highly rendered and done after the fact. Do I think that's what's going on with Damar Hamlin? I don't. I think the guy survived it. I do. Now, there's going to be all sorts of speculation, but anytime I see something like that go super mega viral too, I back up. I back up real quick because that means the algorithm's promoting it. That means there is a certain sect of the population that is buying into it. And I've seen people buy into garbage hysterics before. Does nobody any favors. In fact, unfortunately, I feel like garbage hysterics or garbage hopium is really, it's what's elevated via the algorithm. It's happening, right? I seriously, it's what gets promoted. People want to buy into that stuff. I try not to. All right. So I got some other stories. We got some other stories I want to go over, huh? Huh? When we talk about Hollyweird, okay? And we talk about entertainment, and we talk about this platform on YouTube. Jesse Waters. Now, I'm not going to hold any water for Waters. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But the idea that you pay YouTube TV like it's your cable network, and they're constantly trying to get you to go premium, and I'm constantly getting offers, this and that, because cable's gone up so much for any kind of package that most people just get the internet and they do the stream. You're really, I hate using the term boomer, but you're beyond boomer at this point if you got a cable box and DVR and the whole nine. I mean, I can't tell you. I'm trying to think, but we're probably a good decade, maybe even a decade and a half from the last time I decided to get cable at all. Like, not even a thing. It's gotta be that long. But now, when you're getting warnings, it's not just the in context, it's not just the censorship on their private platform, which isn't private at all. They're warning, consider before watching. The following content has been identified by the YouTube community as inappropriate or offensive for some audiences. Now, how many violent fight videos, World Star, are going to have that? I mean, seriously, how many of those videos are going to have that? How many inappropriate things targeted at your kids via drag culture or even mainstream cartoons are going to have that? Probably none. Probably none. Seriously. Like, let me just give you a couple things that I like. All right? You're watching YouTube TV. It's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Okay? The reason I say that is my nieces, actually, they get out for some reason, ever since the post last 3 years. They got a half day on Wednesday, every Wednesday. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but they're home at 2. And they're going through something like Comedy Central, Viacom, Paramount, etc. All own that. And I believe Wednesday it's all day South Park. And I love South Park. Okay? But am I going to get a warning to consider this before watching? If I have a family account for my YouTube? Of course not. Would I want a 9, 10, 11-year-old, maybe even 12-year-old to watch South Park? Maybe even like young teenager? Probably not. Probably not. Like, I became aware of it for right at the tail end of high school, because that's when it was coming in. But like, you're going to warn me about a news show. I mean, am I getting this with Mehdi Hassan or Joe Scarborough that had a dead intern found in his office? Remember that, Joe? Sometimes all those things happen, right, Joe? Right? Joe? So, it just, again, we're here in cartoon land. We're here in a world where, they changed it. It's too bad. I really wanted that, Lord, so we're going to have to scroll around, down anymore. There we go. And now we just get a screenshot. Not the same. I'm glad we were able to do it live. See, if we went live later, would we have been able to watch the Lori Lightfoot dance along as much? Right? No, we haven't. So, moving on. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Pfizer has always been a criminal enterprise with zero regard for human life. We tried to tell you the whole time, please stop pretending this is all new information. All right, and we got this little here. All right, you look at this. Penalty total since 2000. Do you see this number here? That's 10 billion plus. That's 10 billion plus. And quite frankly, it's not enough. Where are the criminal charges of these people? Where are they? Come on. Let's get to it. Musk's gateway to Mars. All you need to know about Elon's $2.4 billion, 390-foot tall starship designed to ferry 100 people to the Red Planet ahead of its maiden launch within weeks. I can't tell you how ridiculous and fictitious this entire thing is. It's beyond ridiculous and fictitious. First of all, right now, with what we've seen via, the low Earth orbit stuff, Inspiration 4, remember that one? Or what they did with Blue Origin and sending William Shatner and the gang up. Those are spots basically set up for 4 or 5 people where everything is basically automated with the rocket and the vessel that's coming down from the rocket, of which it's not attacked. It's not a starship. Starship. That's ridiculous. All right? These are rockets that have basically little pod modules on them. And the pod module comes down. That's reality. Okay? Starships with 100 people to the Red Planet. Now, when you read something like this, maiden voyage, again, take a look at it. Right? So the top end is supposed to be the Starship. Guys, they're not sending 100 human beings to Mars in our lifetime. That's not reality at all. At all. And, I got sent this last night by NetGain. And I'm not sure if NetGain currently has a YouTube channel up or not. Maybe their second or third one. If they do, I need to find it. In fact, I need to communicate with that person, because so many of the awesome clips that we've played on the show that you may never have seen anywhere else because no one else plays them, with the Hudson Institute, with population control and the limits of growth and all those things. I find them raw on NetGain's feed. And NetGain sent me another Fire 2018 Bushnell Roundtable called The New Horizons in Space. And what I think is really telling about the new horizons in space is what I've been telling you, is that in order to go beyond low Earth orbit or spend long periods of time in space, you basically have to, quote unquote, space harden humans, because space is a dangerous place for human beings. They don't do so well. And Bushnell's very open about it and lays it out. In fact, so we're going to go to that clip right now. Let's see if we can do that right about now. Okay. We do it live. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share, everybody. Remember, we're going to be going full premium in about 10 minutes. Okay? 10 minutes from now. You can come on over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason. Sign up for $10 for the month, or lock it in for $100 for the year. It helps support the broadcast. The other links are down below to help support the broadcast. And today, another, you like the free stuff that I've been publishing over the weekend that was premium. Every single day we do a broadcast Monday through Thursday. Guess what? Another premium hour goes free over at redvoicemedia.com. Every time. We give it all away. So you can find that stuff in full over at RVM. Share the links. Without further ado, here's Dennis Bushnell coming in hot, telling you about space hardening humans.
A proponent of. Yeah. Speaking of NASA, let's turn to Dennis. Dennis, going to the moon?
Yeah. The moon is a place where we can devalue some of the things I'm going to discuss. What I'd like to do now is briefly go through in a little bit more detail some of the stuff I discussed last night, particularly the human health and space issues, which are really a stopper to all this. Look, we're making progress, but it's not going to be cheap.
So again, he tells you the humans in space, that's really a stopper, because health in space ain't big for human beings.
But Musk is enabling us to do it with this factor of 14, cheaper space access, and making Mars the Walmart for the inner solar system. So
you notice, by the way, if you watch this, Bushnell looks up almost no times. He's sitting there reading through his talking points. He's got his pen out. He's underlining things. He's getting ready for his prepared statements and what he wants to talk about.
First, the health issues. The effects of radiation are carcinogenesis, DNA damage, immune system degeneration, cardiovascular damage, neurological damage, and digestive system damage. The effects of microgravity are skeletal, muscular, DNA damage, immune system degeneration, cardiovascular, neurological, eyes especially, and liver damage. The dust in the moon Mars, particularly Mars dust has 10,000 times the perchlorates that you have on Earth, and that takes down your thyroid flat. So you have to stay away from the dust, and you have to keep it out of the hab, and so forth and so on. The Mars and moon dust is small, sharp, oxidative, severe respiratory and cardiopulmonary effects. The current sit rep with respect to human health is that we've been putting, since the early OOs, people up on station for 6 months, and that's about what humans can take.
So let's talk about that. Right there, he's talking about the ISS and prolonged time in Earth's orbit. And he's saying 6 months. He's about to talk about Scott Kelly. Did Kelly win his race, by the way? I think he was running for Senate. Politician Scott Kelly, ex-astronaut, talks about how Kelly did not do well after a year up there.
With residual effects on the eyes and some others when they come back. Kelly went up for 1 year and said, no, this is far worse. Kelly came back. His skin had not been touched much in a year. The skin degenerated into inflamed neurons, really painful to walk and so forth. Took him quite a while to get better. So Mars, which is a 3-year, if we go chemical, needs artificial gravity, some think, and also 3+ meters of polyethylene as an overcoat to protect from radiation. And that overcoat, which is reusable, would weigh just about as much as the rest of the spacecraft. So we need much more fuel to push it there and back. And that's where the factor of 14 cheaper mass and low Earth orbit comes from. On the moon and Mars, you'd have to live under 4 meters of regolith or ice. As I said last night, this nuke battery driving Vasimir at 6,000 seconds of ISP, we can do Mars round trip in 200 days, fast transits, and that's like 6 months on station.
So what he's talking about there doesn't involve human beings, by the way. And notice he's talking about nuclear and those type of propulsion systems. If you look up Bushnell, he's got a lot of patents.
Humans to keep them pink and warm, and because their equipage is not reducing in size and weight much. Everything in space is miniaturizing, all right? The problem is the humans are not. So all of their equipage scales mainly with their size, and therefore humans cost a factor of at least 500 times more than autonomous robotics.
Now, this is what I've been discussing forever. We're sitting here, we're talking about, we're sending 100 people. We got a starship. And he's telling you, this is in 2018, that everything's getting smaller. What do we talk about here? Talk about nanosensors, talk about swarm drones, right? We talk about nanosats and cube satellites. We talk about separate propulsion systems. We talk about printable rockets. We talk about reality, where technology actually is. And how all these things are getting smaller, right? And he even discusses that the first things that will actually go to Mars and survey it on a large scale, you know, despite what you think about rovers or whatever programs have been there, once they do that, it's going to be nanobots. And they'll bring the information back. And then you can go to Mars virtually. We can all go to virtual Mars in our little metaverse, which is going to be getting so much better than a headset. You know, 5 cents reality. Now, in virtual Mars, you probably don't have to worry about all these environmental issues that Dennis is talking about that make it essentially impossible for human beings to live there. Just saying. Just want to point that out. Let's go back to Dennis.
So the bottom line is with respect to humans in space. AI is getting much better. The capability to machine ideate is coming along. The robotics going forward will be both less expensive and possibly more capable than humans with respect to commercial space. What is a separate issue is Mars colonization to hedge the bets to the human species from the odd asteroid impact. This is not a commercial space issue. This is a let's save the species issue.
Let's save the species. I actually had a conversation with Clay Clark. Yesterday, he called me. I'm going to be speaking at the Vegas event. That's like 7 months from now. It's in August. It's the anti-Davos event, apparently. It's the opposite of that crowd. And Clay cracked a joke to me about the asteroid coming, you know, before the asteroid hits the Earth. And I go, dude, that's like beyond fiction. That's where we're at with this idea of alien invasions or any of it. And Musk is a part of that too. He's talking about saving the species here. They're talking about what? A weapon system that can destroy any kind of incoming asteroids. And they can land things on the asteroids, and then they blast the asteroid, and they redirect the asteroid. It's like Armageddon on steroids, and it's a DART program. And my biggest fear is if something like that were to threaten us, number one, I think that we already have the technology to probably take it out beyond DART. All right, I think the Star Wars program, although it's focused in, it's probably also focused out, especially where we're at in 2023. But I also fear that you could have a different type of weapon system, like a blast wave accelerator that we know about, or something else that would be stealth that you would blame on an asteroid strike. And most people would not even question it. All right, guys, here's the deal. I'm going to give the cue to the producer as we move over to the premium section. redvoicemedia.com/uncensored, redvoicemedia.com/Jason. Remember, you can listen to the rest of the broadcast for free over at Podbean. Just look up the Info Warrior. We're streaming live now. The premium broadcast from 2 weeks ago will also be live on Red Voice, and we're going to say goodbye one at a time as we gear up for the second hour. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing some Bill Gates stuff. Plenty to come over on Reality Rants with Jason Bermas. And that's why, Rockfin, consider coming over to Red Voice. And YouTube, you know the deal. We did it big, YouTube. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share on the way out.